Hi friends, I'm Carol Keller, an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Illinois, and I have today 3 alternative cards to this month's paper pumpkin kit, which is called Full of Charm. I hope you like them. I have used the stamps and actually the companion die set for one of the cards, the stamps for all of the cards, so that you can recreate these cards hopefully easily, and I hope you like them. Let's get started. And here is a picture of the kit. It comes with a pretty peacock ink spot. And then these are the cards if you make them the way they come in the kit. And with my alternatives, you absolutely can, because if you know me, you know that I cut off the backs of the cards when they are decorated, which most of the time they are, and we use those for the front of another card. So in this case, like I said in my intro, I use the stamps for all of the cards, and I use the companion dies for one of the cards. So hopefully you will find that useful. And I always do this at the beginning and show the box. Let me know in the comments, do you need me to show the box? Do you need me not to show the box because you have it and it doesn't matter? Does it help you as a frame of reference for which kit it is? Let me know. If it's useful, let me know. If you don't need it, let me know that too. All right, and like I always say, double check to make sure you have everything in the kit, and contact Stampin' Up! If you have anything missing or there's any kind of problem. These are the companion dies, which they show here. And so we will use 3 of them on one of the cards. And I used all 4 of them on a card in my April kit, and you'll see there's a similarity and yet it's different. Love, love, love this. That for me, I use it as a reference to keep every month together. I write the month and the year here, and then I have a reference for stamps so that I can use them instead of having them sit and not get used and just collect dust, because that is not good. We want value for our money, so I love that. All right, let's get started. Here is the first card that I designed. This one, like I said, is a little bit reminiscent of one that I did in the April kit, or for the April kit, with the April kit, however you want to say it. And I used a different color palette, but I did use basically, these are 3 of the dies that come in the set. I used all 4 for that one because I used the Hugs die as well. And on that one, I think I had it oriented this way, but also the other thing that was different, I used still the subtles, but I used Pool Party and I think and Fresh Freesia and maybe Highland Heather, I don't know, but I know I used Pool Party and Fresh Freesia for that one. So for this, I'm using, this is Bubble Bath and Lemon Lolly and Balmy Blue. So let's put it aside so we can get started. And this is, before we do start, this is the back side of the card. So the reason I'm pointing that out is they are not identical, the front and the back. And so I do think it's important. This is the front of the card, okay? So it's this side, the back side is not centered. If you do want to make the card the way it comes in the kit, you want to make sure that you save this. And I'm going to show you, I double checked to see that you can see that on both of them, they look similar. But on this one, there's no white space and the lines are here where this one matches up with this. And this side matches up with this side. I don't know how well you can see it, but they do match. So that is the front side. So like I said, if that's important to you to make the card the way it comes in the kit, then that's what you want to do, is make sure you save this side. So I'm going to grab my trimmer and put it at 4 1/4 inches. And then we'll save this for the other card, because I have been most months making them the way they come in the kit and then using either extra pieces or envelopes or the back sides and the stamps and everything that I can that comes with the kit, and that's extra, and I use that too. So I'm going to take my bone folder. I always do this and try to flatten that edge out that has the scoring, and so you want to try to get rid of that little score line as much as possible. I don't think it makes that much a difference, but every little bit helps, I guess. And then I have a basic white card base. I'm going to bring it out, but we're not going to attach the front yet. We're going to do our stamping first. And I like to do that just in case I make a little boo-boo, which I would hate to waste you know, a card front, but if need be, I will. So we're gonna put that there for now, and we're gonna do our stamping. So we're gonna start and stamp right on that card base. I'm using Balmy Blue for that, and all the stamps come with the kit, the 2 here, and then what I'm going to use on the inside too, they all come from the kit. So I've got my Balmy Blue, and I'm going to ink the whole stamp. For some of the cards, the other cards, we're not going to ink the stem necessarily, but for this one we are. So I want this up at the top. Gonna re-ink it, and we're gonna do the same thing at the bottom. And then I'm gonna re-ink it once more. I wanted to add a little more depth to the bottom, so I'm gonna do this, kind of do it right next to it. While we've got the Balmy Blue, I'm gonna let that dry a little bit, and with the dies that come, the companion dies, did I say they're called Hugs Abloom? I cut the sentiment label out in Lemon Lolly, and I'm going to stamp on it in the Balmy Blue. Stampin' Let's Celebrate You. We'll do that right in the middle, hopefully. It is very challenging to do this on camera. Then for the inside, I stamped Happy Birthday and that stamp again, and here I did sort of cut off the stem, so I'll show you how I did that. We'll do the Happy Birthday first. You'll see mine looks a little pink. I was playing with some colors for one of the other cards and I ended up not using it, but it stained it a little bit, but that's all right because it still inks in the color that it's meant to, which is the Balmy Blue. I'm gonna bring this one in one more time. And again, I'm just inking. I don't know if you can see this on camera, but I'm just inking so that not too much of the stem is showing. And I'm gonna put it right down here, just like that. If I get a little, nope, I'm good. I was gonna say if I got a little on my desktop here, I was gonna use my chamois to wipe it, but I think we're good. And then I'm gonna bring in the envelope and do it again. So we'll ink it and stamp the envelope, because I do not like naked envelopes. I always feel like you need something there. So our envelope is done. We'll move that out of the way. Our stamping is done. So we'll move that out of the way and we'll continue with assembly. So we'll put this on the front now that the stamping looks good. So I'm going to grab my multi-purpose liquid glue for that. I know it's getting low, but hopefully there'll be enough. And there is. Make sure it's all right side up and put it on the front. Give that glue a little time to adhere. So the nice thing about doing this is you can use any color palette you would like. For the next card, I'll be using the Brights. And so you'll see, you know, kind of a different palette that you could use even on this card if you wanted to. I am gonna put this on with my seal. And so with the idea that I want it basically centered and covering up some of those stems. Let's see here, maybe down a little bit. Yes, maybe down, that's right, because before I adhere that, I'm going to move it over to the left or to the right just a little, because I did also cut some other pieces that I made with the dies, some other die cuts. So I have 3 flowers and I cut those out in Bubble Bath. And then I have the leaves in Balmy Blue, and they're going to get tucked under right here. So that's right, before I lay this down, I actually put the leaves down first because I did not want them to overlap the edge of the card. So I'm going to leave that here for a sec. For the leaves, I used my glue dots because they tend to want to move around and separate, and I wanted to make sure all 4 of them were going to stay put. So I did use my glue dots for that. So we'll put one on each one. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. I would appreciate that a lot. And if you click on the bell, you'll be notified when I post new videos. All right, so I'm gonna kind of center this here and just sort of follow from the stems a little bit. Now I'll put this on because I want it to be sort of overlapping just that little edge and maybe the leaves a little tiny bit. And I'm gonna move it up a little bit. Yeah, I think that'll be all right. Because we have more of the stems. Well, maybe not. I was going to say we have more of the stems showing in this one, but I don't think I necessarily do because the flower will help cover it. So before I ran these through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, I put an adhesive sheet on the back. So I can just peel the paper. And then we're going to lay them down. We'll put one over on this side. And make sure you burnish it with your finger so that that glue adheres. And for the flowers on this side, I'm not going to burnish until I'm happy with the placement. Let's see if I can get it started here. It's coming. Let's see. Stubborn today. There we go. So I'm just gonna, whoops, and I definitely don't want it there. I don't want it to hide the word celebrate. And we'll take the paper off of this one. And I wanted it over, because again, I want it to sort of help hide. Let's see, we want something a little, yeah, like that is perfect actually. It helps hide the stem a little bit, and it doesn't cover up the word you. And then I overlapped the leaves a little bit and the flowers. I think we'll do that again. Now I'm going to give it a good burnish. And it's funny, you know, making sure that I don't use up the items that come in the kit. I realized that I forgot something when I was prepping the cards. There are sequins that come with the kit, and they are gold, so they coordinate, because I use something different because I had forgotten about these. And I certainly still will plan on using these with the cards, but you could also use whatever extras you have. If you're making 9 cards, well, you would use most. If you use 3 on each card, that's 27, and there are 30 here. So really there would only be enough left over for 1 card. So I guess it doesn't really matter. But if you like the sequins better, you can certainly use those. But instead of the sequins, I use the flower accent gems, I guess, or flower accents they're called. So I'm gonna grab my Take Your Pick tool. I used the large ones, and I just put them in the center. You could scatter them around the card instead, but I thought it would make a nice, it would draw your eye kind of to the flowers. So that's why I put them there. Whoops. And then we'll press those down. And so that is card number 1. And so the only thing I used extra was those dies that I showed in the beginning of the video. So there you go, card number 1. Here is card number 2. And so like I said, when I talked about the first card, I used the brights for this one, but the same thing, you could use the brights for the first card, you could use subtles, you could use the in colors, whichever color palette you like. That's the nice thing about using the stamps and not using the supplies, because it doesn't tie you to any one color. All right, so let's get started with this one. I am starting again with a basic white card base. I used basic white for the card base for all 3 of the cards today. I also, of course, cut apart one of the card bases. So we'll use the bone folder to get rid of that score line. It's not too bad on this one though. And for this card, it doesn't matter which side of the card base you use. So actually, I think this is the same card and I used it. I think it goes this way, but regardless. And we can put that on right away with the multi-purpose liquid glue. We'll get that done and have it drying there. while we do the other part of the card. Put that right on the front. And help that glue to adhere. Like I said, we'll put it aside. Oh, it's a little crooked. That's why we like the give. Okay, now we'll put that aside to dry. I cut a piece of gold foil paper, and this is, I believe, 3 3/4 inches by 5. I'm just double checking. Yes, 3 3/4 inches by 5. Before we put it on, though, most of it's not going to be seen. So we're going to cut apart the center. We're going to cut out the center of this piece, and we're actually going to use it on the next card. So when you cut it out, don't get rid of it. So I'll show you how I did it. I used about a 1/2 inch as a gauge all the way around because I knew I was going to be showing about 1/4 inch, and then that gives me enough to make sure that there's no way there are going to be gaps or spaces where there's no gold. So that's just sort of insurance, doing it at a 1/2 inch. So I've got my gold on my 1/2 inch mark, and I'm going to bring the, see if I can do this on camera, bring the scoring blade up to about a 1/2 inch and go down to about 4.5 inches here. And do the same thing, put it back up at a 1/2 inch, bring it back up to the 1/2 inch mark at the top. This is very hard to do on camera. And I'm going to go down to about 3 1/4, since this is at 3 3/4. It doesn't have to be exact, but it will help because we are going to use it. It helps to get it close to that, up to the top at a 1/2 and down to 4.5. And then one more time at the 1/2 inch mark. And down. All right, take this out of the way. And now I've got my frame that we're going to use here. And like I said, this will be for used for card number 3. I'm going to put that aside. And I'm going to put this on right away with my Stampin' Seal. I really don't like to use my multi-purpose liquid glue because if any of it gets on the outside of the foil, on the top side, this side, you're not going to be able to get it off. And so then, of course, it affects how the card looks. I'm going to put that right in the center. All right, I think that looks pretty good. And then put it aside. And now I have a piece of basic white cardstock, and this is first layer size to that gold piece. So if that was 3 3/4 by 5, this is 3.5 by 4 3/4. And I am just going to work right on my glass mat because I have my chamois all ready to wipe for if there's excess, which there probably will be. And it took me a couple of tries to sort of get this the way I wanted it to look, partly with a slightly different color palette and partly with where I stamped. So I'm going to sort of give you the benefit of my struggles here. So we're going to start with Melon Mambo. Like I said, I'm using the brights for this. I'm going to move that away from that ink pad just in case. Got my same stamp that we used for the first card. And I'm going to ink it so that the stem is not inked, just so that it makes less of a mess on my surface here on my glass mat. So for the 2 shorter sides, I'm just going to pretty much stamp in the corner. And I'm going to make sure that that stem goes off of the paper. I don't want a space at the bottom. So keep that in mind. And so I'm going to flip it around and do the same thing right here in the corner. Ink it again. And when I do the sides, now I'm going to move it over. I'm not going to do it in the corner. I'm going to move it over a little bit because that's going to give me the space to fit the other stamps in. This is Make Your Own DSP, and I love to do this. I haven't done it in a while, I don't think. Now, before we finish with that ink, I'm bringing in my envelope. I'm going to ink it again, stamp it in the corner. So that's done. And I'm going to do the same thing on the inside. I'm going to bring that card in, and I'm going to stamp it right here. And so now our Melon Mambo is done. Next, we're going to, I'll stamp the inside since it's here, and I'm going to bring in Azure Afternoon. And for the inside sentiment this time, I actually used a stamp from last month's kit. Again, trying to use them and not have them sitting collecting dust. This came from the May kit, and it says, "You mean the world to me." And I just loved that sentiment when I saw it last month. So we're going to use that for the inside sentiment here. So then the inside is done. But we are going to use that Azure Afternoon. We're going to start with this. Come on back here. I'm using one of the stamps from the kit. Whoops, ink it up. Didn't quite get that edge. And this time I turned it upside down, and I'm going to fit it in right here. And it's okay for me if it overlaps. And I'm just going to go around the card and do the same thing, sort of close to the Melon Mambo so that it leaves me a little bit of room for the lemon lime twist leaf that we're going to do next. So over here. And one more time. Right there. And then I have a scrap of lemon lime twist, and I'm using the Label Me Lovely punch to punch it out. I was going to use the die that comes with the companion die set, but I thought if you don't have it, here is an option, which is why I used it for this card. If you don't have that die, there are others that work, and this, or if you don't have that die, then the punch will work, and this one definitely does. So while I've got that Azure Afternoon, I'm going to bring in the Miss You stamp from this kit and ink it up. Actually, you know what? I'm going to bring in Lemon Lime Twist because I think I ended up, I did this a few times too, and I ended up stamping the leaves first and then placing the Miss You in between. So I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to bring in my Lemon Lime Twist and the last leaf stamp from the kit. So I found it was centered better that way. I turned it at an angle and then flipped it around and did the same thing. I'm going to keep this here because we're going to use it. I'm going to move it out of the way though. We're going to use it for that. And I'm going to stamp that Miss You in the middle, just like this. It's probably not necessary to do that, but I found when I stamped it initially, I wasn't as happy with the placement. When I did the leaves first, then I was happier with that. So we are done with the Azure Afternoon. We'll move this aside, bring this back in, and the leaf stamp. So now I'm going to ink and stamp it. And I did sort of turn it upside down as well. Let's see, we're going to put one here in the corner. And then flip. Again, one in the corner. One here. And actually, I'm going to add one. So we've got some spaces here that I didn't have the first time. Maybe we'll add 2. So I want those spaces filled up a little bit. And actually, 1 more here. Except we'll move it this way. Just to fill that in a little bit. Got a little bit on there, a little bit of ink. Just grab my chamois. And now all of our stamping is done. So now we just have to finish assembly. I'm going to use my Stampin' Seal. Do love my seal. It's nice and strong. And I rarely have any issues. So I don't think it matters. I think maybe I'll do 1 more right there. Do we need 1 more there? I think we do. I think we do. We're going to put 1 more in there before we put it on. So hopefully it's not going to stick too much to my surface. We'll do like this. Ooh. I'm going to use my chamois to make sure there's no adhesive there and no ink. I'm going to put this on. I think we'll do it this way. Center it. So again, this is where you don't want your multi-purpose liquid glue, because if any seeps out, it's really going to affect how that gold looks. Put the ink away. And now before we put this on, I took my Azure Afternoon twine, which comes from the Pack Your Bags Twine 3-pack. I'm going to put some seal on the back. Just like that, to give it something to adhere to and hold it in place. And I think this time, let me see, this time I think I'm going to try it around my fingers. Whoops, do not stick to that. Yeah, we're going to give that a try. Is that wide enough? Yes, it should be. Whoops, thought I cut it. Let's try that again. Just wrapping it 3 times. Of course, I'm trying to cut it and not cut the rest. Oh, it looks like it was right there. I just didn't cut it all the way through. Now I did though. All right, so, and I don't necessarily want the tails to show. So I'm going to make sure those are in the middle. Pull it just a little so that they show on each side. Yeah, I think I'm going to like that better. Move this here. And then I bumped it up with dimensionals, because when you put anything behind a tag, any kind of ribbon or twine, it tends to want to pop up. And so I find that just putting the dimensionals kind of solves that problem. So I always start by overlapping the twine to help hold it in place. And it's very sticky. I'm going to put some all the way down the middle, just like this. And then take the paper off, bring it back in. Whoops, I got one little piece of paper there from one backing. Now I'm just going to center it. So, and that's why I left the white space in the middle, because I knew it wasn't going to show. That's why I put the stems from the one we used, the stamp that we used with the Azure Afternoon there too. Actually, let's see if I can, well, I'm not going to be able to do it now, but there we go. So it doesn't overlap the Azure Afternoon as much. That's why I was trying to move it a little so it doesn't get lost, but I think that's pretty good. All right, and now, last but not least, the bling. So I'm bringing back in the flower accents and scattering them around the card. So this time I used And here I put them in the white spaces a little more, but we have less white space, and that's okay. I'm still gonna put these in about the same spots. And the Miss You, I used a little one for the dot in the eye. You could also put it here. That's where, let's do that. Let's see what that looks like. That's where I had it originally in the first card. So you can decide which you like better. And we'll put some more up here. Whoops. Just like that. That putty works so well, I couldn't get it off. And then make sure you press those down so they adhere. And that is card number 2. So for this one, the only thing I used extra was the gold foil sheets and the twine. And let me show you the 3-pack that it comes in. It's the Pack Your Bags Twine 3-pack, like I said. And so there's also Strawberry Slush. And I believe this is Shy Shamrock, pretty sure. So that's what comes, and you can see I love my blues. I've used a lot of that Azure Afternoon twine. Beyond that, the only other thing I used was a little scrap of that lemon lime twist. So there is card number 2. Here is the last card I designed. And again, very different look from either one of the other two because I used something different. In this case, I used a little bit of DSP, and that comes from the Kintsugi Inspirations DSP, which I'll show you at the end. Hopefully I remember. So let's get started with that one. I used the 3rd card base because again, my thought is to just use up what comes with the kit, the back side. So this is one of the back sides. So this way you could make 3 of each card that I showed you using those. So you get 18 cards from the kit instead of just 9. So you can make them the first 9 the way they come in the kit by just cutting the card bases in half and putting them on white card bases just like I did today. Then you have 9 more that you can make, 3 of each one that I'm showing you today. So again, got a white card base. And it was kind of nice. I noticed it, on all of the cards that I put together so far, there was a little sort of a ding in the corner. And so I purposely used that as the front side of the card so I could cover it because I knew I was going to cover it and nobody would be the wiser. So that's what I did. So a little tip there too. So I'm going to grab my multi-purpose liquid glue one more time. We're going to put that on the back. Getting to the end here. And we put it on the front. Make sure it's straight. I'm going to double check that before it dries. Yep, that looks good. So like I said, I cut a piece of the DSP from the Kintsugi Inspirations, and I believe this one is 2 inches. Yes, 2 inches by 5, I believe. Yes. Sorry, just double checking. 2 inches by 5. And we could put that on right away. I'm using my seal for that, of course. I was actually going to use, I was looking for some paper that had gold foil on it. And the one I was going to use, I can't find it. I don't know what happened to it. It's here somewhere. But then when I saw this, I was happy I didn't find the other one because I think this is a better choice. So I think we'll do it this way. Not that it really matters that much because it's mostly going to be covered up. And we'll move it in a little bit. Beautiful paper. Put that aside. And so now we've got our piece of gold. So now I have to cut a piece of white, but I'm going to custom cut it. That's what I did with the last card because I need a piece of white. I need to custom cut it because so that it fits in this space and it might not be exact. So let's see, I'm going to measure it. It looks like it's 2 3/4 inches. I was a little more careful this time, a little more conscious of it too, by 4. And it's pretty much exact. So 2 3/4, I said, right, by 4. So when I did the last one, it was a little bit smaller on both sides, so I had to adjust. So I really was conscious of trying to get it right at the 1/2 inch mark. But if you don't, it doesn't matter. I was able to do this card. I just made this white piece a little bit smaller because the gold one was just a tiny bit smaller than this one. So that's all you have to do is measure it and then cut your white piece from that based on that. So I have a scrap. Is it long enough? I think it is. Let's see. So if that is 4 inches, I need 3 3/4. And if it's 2 3/4, I'm going to double check that one more time. Yeah, and 2 1/2. So I need 2 1/2 by 4. So, and this, nope, it's not 4. So I'm not going to do that. So I know this is, so I need this at 4. You definitely don't want a piece that's too small, and this is 2 1/2. Because then it won't be centered in the gold if you have it too small on one side. And now I'm going to double check again. Oh, I cut it too. Oh, that's right. This is at 4. This needs to be 3 3/4. This is why you double check. I think I must have had it in my mind that it was too long. All right, let's try that one more time. Oh yeah, much better. See, that will fit beautifully. Okay, so now we're going to stamp on this. We're going to bring in this time Misty Moonlight. And if you have your ink spot from last month, you could use it because that's the one that came in the kit. But this is Misty Moonlight, I do believe. And it might be even a little bit of cloud cover. But I tried the cloud cover and I didn't like it. Even the Misty Moonlight is a little bit off. I don't know. It's sort of almost in between the two. But I tried the cloud cover and I didn't like it as much. In fact, I have a scrap I can show you. This is the cloud cover and it's definitely not the right blue. And this is the Misty Moonlight. So I decided to go with that, but I did stamp off because I wanted to make it lighter because this seems so light. It seemed lighter than Misty Moonlight. So anyway, that was my thought process. So I've got this time the stamp that says, "Let's celebrate you." And I'm bringing in Misty Moonlight. And at first I wondered if I had re-inked it in Night of Navy or something because it seemed dark, but I actually took that ink spot from the kit last month and that's what was on that stamp I just showed you, that little scrap I mean, and it was the same color. So I think it's just closer to Night of Navy than you would realize. Let's make sure we've got some good ink. And so now I am going to bring in a little scrap just because I need to stamp off. So I'm stamping off on my scrap, and then I'm going to stamp right here in the corner. Oh, I don't like that. It doesn't look even. Let's try that again. I want an even layer of ink. Yeah, that's better. And now I'm going to stamp it up in the corner. Now I'm going to re-ink and stamp it in about the middle. And then without re-inking, stamp it one more time at the bottom. Yeah, not bad at all. And I'm bringing in, of course, that wonderful stamp again. I just loved it. And it went with the flowers too. So I really felt like it was a good companion to that. So I'm going to ink this. Again, not all the way down. I don't need the whole stem. I'm going to bring in my scrap one more time. And I'm going to stamp off. And then stamp here. Again, it's not even. Let's try that again. It doesn't work unless it's even. So try it one more time. Yeah, that's better. And I turned it this time so I didn't want it really covering up the letter, the Y and the U. And I'm going to grab my chamois, just a tiny bit of ink there. I'm going to ink it again. And I do have ink on the stem, but that's okay. So I'm stamping off anyway. And I have my chamois to clean. That looks good. I'm going to flip this around. And again, I don't want to cover the words up. we'll do like that. And clean my surface. Love it. I'm doing the same thing again on the inside. So I'm going to ink it one more time. Again, without inking the stem. Stamp off. I'm going to keep that handy because we're going to need it for the envelope too. One more time here. If you wanted to, you could even do it with the stem and do it here, maybe even this way if you wanted to. And one last time for the envelope. Stamping off. That's not too bad. And on my envelope. Perfect. So I'll put that aside, and I believe oh no, our stamping's not done. We have to do the inside sentiment. So I'm going to bring in that happy birthday again. Let's celebrate you is a good one. You could use it for congratulations too, but since happy birthday comes with the kit, that's what I'm using. So the inside is done, and I did do that at full strength because it does provide then a nice little contrast with the lighter stamp down here. So our stamping is done. I purposely did not put the gold on because we are going to adhere them together, and then we're going to put the ribbon over both. So let me grab my seal. We'll put those together. Good. This time I'm using some ribbon, the gold striped mesh ribbon. That's new. And I'm just going to put, can't remember if it's in the new in the catalog or a new online exclusive that came out in May also, but it's one or the other. So I've got a glue dot on one side, just adhered to the back. Snip this, and we're going to put a glue dot on the other side because that glue dot is nice and strong and it's going to hold it in place. And I purposely put it so you could still see the Let's Celebrate You and the word you. So I put it in between those. I'm going to leave this for a minute, leave it handy. I'm going to take my seal again. And I like to put my seal over the ribbon. Flip it around. It's easier to do it this way from sort of each end so that it doesn't clump together when you do it that way, when you kind of start from the middle and work out. And then this goes here. So I have about the same amount of distance on each side, and then of course top and bottom. So about like this. All I did then with the ribbon was tie it. And if you want your ribbon to go this way at the end, you start off with it this way. So that on the opposite diagonal, that's one thing I have learned kind of from experience. And I'm just tying. I like to work off the roll, but you could also cut it down if you wanted to. So I'm just tying. If I can get it in there. All right, maybe, let's see. Is it making a lot? Oh, yeah. I think that is right. I think I thought it was going to go the wrong way, but it shouldn't. So let's see here. Tie that in a loop. Yeah. If I can get it. There we go. And then just tighten it. I'm going to snip off this end and pretty it up a little bit by cutting it on the diagonal. I'm going to do the same thing with this side, just make it a little shorter so that it's about the same length as the other one. Yeah. Actually, even just this way a little bit so that you can hopefully still read that. But yeah, I like that. And then last but not least, the same bling. Like I said, you could use the sequins that come with the kit, or you can use the flower, what are they called? Flower accents. So this time I just used the smaller ones and kind of scatter them around to draw your eye around the card. Whoops, let's get some more putty. And right by that, let's celebrate, or by the word celebrate. And then up here. So like I said before, the only things I used for this card were the gold, that piece of gold foil paper again that I used on the second card, and then the Kintsugi Inspirations DSP. So let me bring that in and show it to you. This is what I have left of the sheet that we used today. I've been using it, and here are the other designs. So all of them on one side with that gold foiling. And then the other side, coordinating colors, lots of blues. This again is that cloud cover. And this looks like Misty Moonlight again. So those are the papers that come in the DSP. So let me bring in the other cards. All right, so let me bring in the cards that I made for you. This was card number 1. And card number 2, and of course card number 3. I hope you like them. I hope they give you some inspiration. If you make them yourself, please post a picture in the comments. I would love to see them, especially if you use a different color palette, because like I said, you could use on these two any color palette that you would like. Whichever is your favorite 3-color combination works. And then this, of course, I picked up from the DSP, which is why we went more monochromatic with just the blue ink. But anyway, I hope you like my creations. I hope, like I said, they give you some inspiration. If you need more inspiration, check out my YouTube channel. I have lots of other videos with cards, scrapbook pages, home decor items, tips and techniques, beginner videos. So hopefully a lot there that you will find useful. Please leave me some love in the comments on those too, because I appreciate it all. And I will see you again soon. Take care, everyone. Happy stamping.